The law of reincarnation and causality is proven by modern science. English translation of Luat Luan Hoi Va Nyan Kwa Li Chung Theo Koa Ha Keen Dai. Extracted and completed from the video, The Law of Reincarnation and Cause and Effect, published on August 29, 2019. Dear ladies and gentlemen, today we would like to share the topic, the law of reincarnation and causation, based on modern science of the 21st century, and combined with the philosophical source of the supreme vehicle Buddhism. Reincarnation is the general law of the changing operation of all visible, metaphysical and invisible phenomena in the universe, which Buddha Shakyamuni clearly understood about this operation and transformation to teach about the law of reincarnation, that all sentient beings have passed through countless lives. Even Shakyamuni Buddha himself has experienced many reincarnations. But unfortunately his teachings were not recorded in writing, but only heard orally by his disciples. Not until about 400 years later were recorded, so there was adding or subtracting is no longer accurate. For example, reincarnation is a law, which many monks and nuns later called the theory of reincarnation. Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to Buddhism, everyone knows it's a big religion, with too many scriptures. Due to the collection of doctrines of many sects in the two main sects that are Theravada and Northern Buddhism, later called Hinayana and Mahayana. In the Hinayana, there are three sects that are Khao Eksa Tong, Tan Thong Tong, and Luat Tong. In Mahayana there are 7 schools that are Phap Tuong Tong, 3 commentaries Tong, Thien Tai Tong, Hua Niem Tong, Chan Non Tong, Zen Buddhism, and Pure Land School. Later, there were 2 new schools, Supreme Vehicle Buddhism and Supreme Vehicle Buddhism. Ladies and gentlemen, relatives, although Buddhism has been divided into 2 sects, and each sect has many sects, but one thing in common is that they all respect Shakyamuni as the teacher. The master is the great teacher, and has the same basic dharma. The 4 Noble Truths. The 4 Noble Truths are the 12 causes and conditions, the Eightfold Path, cause and effect, and karma. The difference between Mahayana and Hinayana is Mahayana considers the Buddha as an omnipotent God, absolute power, his form is boundless, what he says is without defects, is the truth. The Hinayana considers the Buddha to be a historical person, a great teacher, not an all-powerful God. His teachings are the path to enlightenment. The Buddha said, all sentient beings are equal in realizing the truth. This teaching is a warning about the contradictions in most Buddhist activities today in Vietnam. If you want to understand this part better, please go online to access the topics of the authors. The following. First, difference between Buddhism and Brahmanism, by Elder Thich Thong Lac. Access, www.nguyenthaichanhu.net. Second, why Buddhism declines in India. Access, Lean Fat Hoi Bookstore. Translated by Tran Duc Phi Bang. Third, the reason why Buddhism is divided into sects and sects. Source access, Basic Buddhism or Hoa Sen Library. Studying the 3rd century of the above topic, you will clearly see some of the current contradictions of Vietnamese Buddhism, from which you will find many other causes. In addition, due to the pressures required by modern scientific civilization according to the urgent requirements of society, the masters need to prove the arguments in the field of metaphysics and phenomena that are not as required by the teachers' religious beliefs, as well as those of contemporary scholars. So want to keep the true value of the sentence that monks and nuns often say, Buddhism is the way of wisdom and science. Thus, it is necessary to have outstanding monks and nuns with special intelligence, and to receive modern scientific knowledge of the 21st century, to be able to answer those questions in the true spirit of the Buddhist saying. religion of wisdom, of science, is this the shortest way to bring the masses to soon realize the true truth of Buddhism? I think the truth here, not only by theory, but must be proved by specific images, hearing and seeing. Avoiding the proof by abstract images, due to the inductive method of one-way interpretation. We will present it more fully in the following section of the proof of the law of reincarnation and causality. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to introduce two related philosophies in the matter of explanation and proof. This part is shared by Fu Le. Following Fuang Ngio's presentation, I would like to share two important philosophies related to the explanation and proof of the law of reincarnation and causality. The first is the philosophy system. Absolutely the same, and the two-way difference is not contradictory, not antagonistic, of a Vietnamese philosopher, that is Mac Trong. According to the principle of absolute unity and two-dimensional difference of philosopher Mac Trong, in each physical being of every person, everything, in the visible and metaphysical form in the universe, they are exactly the same, but in fact it also has different points, and vice versa. It is thought to be completely different, but in fact it also has the same point. Therefore, if we know how to disassemble it, then we will be able to explain and prove it all the facts that I never thought I could prove. The second case is the philosophical source of the supreme vehicle, Buddhism. This school has a deep understanding of Buddhist teachings. Both have modern scientific knowledge to explain and prove the existence of the human soul. Talking about the existence of the human soul, American science, there have been studies. Very early detection. In 1901, surgeon Duncan McDougall in Massachusetts did experiments on dying patients, to find out the existence of a human soul after death, which caused a movement, and was popular with many scientists. Other attend. By 1910, Walter Kilmer, a technician at Thomas Hospital in England, had built a special filter to observe the human energy field. Next was Patrick O'Donnell, a radiologist in Chicago, USA, who used this device to observe a dying person. When the doctor declared the patient dead, O'Donnell saw the energy field radiating pulses around the body like a halo and then disappeared. From determining the electromagnetic energy released when people begin to die, has helped researchers establish ghost hunting societies. Ladies and gentlemen, before learning about the source of modern scientific philosophy of the supreme vehicle of Buddhism, we think we need to briefly understand some outlines of mechanics. Quantum, which the Wikipedia Open Encyclopedia has talked about. Subatomic electron, you read from 1/1, 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, to 1/5. You will understand Introduction to Electrons. Then continue reading sections 2/1, 2/2, 2/3, 2/4, and 2/5 about interactions. After studying the content in the above topics, you will know about electrons moving around the nucleus, including protons, neutrons, etc. When electrons move freely in a certain direction, an electric current is generated. Static electricity is not a flow of electrons. It points to objects that have more or less electrons than needed to balance out the positive area of the nucleus. If there are more electrons than protons, the object is said to be negatively charged. Conversely, when there are fewer electrons than protons, the object is said to be positively charged. When the number of electrons equals the number of protons, the object is said to be electrically neutral. That is the principle of coordination, operating yin and yang in the universe. When it's time to study and learn about the philosophy of the supreme vehicle of Buddhism, you will find new discoveries of extremely important science, such as the debate between Niels Bohr and Albert Einstein lasting up to 5 years. 1982, the victory belonged to Niels Bohr, thanks to the successful experiment of Elan aspect conducted in Paris, France in 1982. It is thanks to electrons' successful double gap experiment which shows that electron only appears when there is a good observer or device. It is this person or device that has replaced human consciousness or the wave emitted by the sensor, or the sensor of the device, causing electron from invisible waveform to turn into a visible form. That is how matter appear from no to have. Without a person or an observer, the electron is just an invisible wave, not matter. As the electron is an invisible wave, it is spaceless in both space and time. This is what ordinary people like us also experience with our smartphone, because the information on the internet is present everywhere, all the time. When the electron becomes a visible particle, it appears on the screen, phone in the form of text, sound, images, or movies. That proves that matter is just consciousness, that is, a form of information. Officially made invisible waves turn into visible matter. Buddhism describes that consciousness as righteous mindfulness. Ignorance comes from the brain. Therefore, the idea of spiritual action, which is brought about by an incomparable magical force, consciously controlled by right transformation of knowledge, can be understood. The sudden appearance of the mystical spirit is the phenomenon of quantum mechanics. The above are documents and documents of scientists, which some Vietnamese people have researched and translated into Vietnamese, which have been published on websites such as Wikipedia and the free website Upper Vehicle Buddhism in 2018. And their names are already on the websites mentioned above. Now let me introduce briefly the main features of the Supreme Vehicle. Supreme Vehicle Buddhism is a school of meditation practice that was founded by Shakyamuni Buddha, and has been deployed by the patriarchs for generations. They are not mere theorists, but mainly practitioners. They apply the Supreme Vehicle in their own lives to attain enlightenment in both theory and practice. In practice they have discovered that the mind is the source of the universe, of all things. Enlightenment means becoming a Buddha, also known as right understanding, which means understanding the reality throughout space and time of the three realms, including the world of desire, the world of form, and the world of formlessness. The Supreme Vehicle breaks all attachments. Theoretically, they preach many sutras of profound and ultimate meaning, capable of refuting the false beliefs of many later scientists. I think, you uncles, who want to have a modern scientific knowledge in accordance with Buddhist philosophy, you should read this document, which was published in March 2018. On the page of Supreme Vehicle Buddhism. Ladies and gentlemen, through the brief sharing of some of the above sources and documents, which you have consulted and researched, you must have clearly realized what is Nian Li, Nian Dao, which is Thien Li, Thien Dao. In order to help us rely on modern science to explain and prove specifically about the existence of the human soul after death, which are currents of positive or negative electromagnetic energy circulating in the low and high formations in space. We think that Dharma evangelists often demonstrate with abstract images that are no longer convincing, but need to be changed with concise teachings, combined with concrete proofs, to help Buddhists learn little, understand a lot, avoid learning a lot but understand little. In the Theravada Buddhist sect, recently, the elder Thich Thong Lak has made a video about this incident very clearly. Now, I would like to share the content of the law of reincarnation and causality based on the above-mentioned bases, with my own experience. Ladies and gentlemen, from the beginning of 2017 to 2018, we listened to about 380 videos of about 36 venerables, and most venerables, preaching Buddhist teachings. Out of 380 videos listened, we have summarized the two most relevant cases that represent our argument. The first case is an old monk from Ba Ria province, Vung Tao, giving a lecture on reincarnation. This venerable said as follows: "Then, do you know that this life is a brother and sister of the same father and mother, living in one family, but in the next life. They are reborn in two other families and then become husband and wife. After the end of the lecture, to the question part, a Buddhist asked the question, "Teacher, according to you, in terms of science, in terms of genetic inheritance, is there incest? Are the fine customs and traditions of Vietnamese culture contrary to common morality? Even incest?" The answer of the other venerable master, from a scientific point of view of genetics, was not convincing, but seeing that the venerable master was too old, the Buddhists were silent and informed. Via. Second case. During a lecture and answering difficult questions that took place at a temple in District 10 of Ho Chi Minh City, a male Buddhist male between the ages of 45 and 50, asked the following question. In the olden days there are about 200 million people in the world, but now there are about 7 billion too. So where did the other 7 billion people get their souls to reincarnate? This venerable replied, the souls of the other 7 billion people take the souls of other animals who have practiced and have the opportunity to be reborn as humans. In the Buddhist scriptures there is talk about the regulation of energy in the universe. Fortunately, this male Buddhist quietly sat down, did not ask further. If at that time another Buddhist would raise the following question, Venerable Master, among animals that reproduce exponentially, such as pigs and mice, there are also species that reproduce exponentially like carp, frogs, and so on, so their souls demand too much, where can they make up for it? At that time, I don't know what this venerable master replied, or also reply to get the souls of animals from other planets. The venerable's answer thought it was scientific, but it was actually unscientific. So everyone should pay attention. Ladies and gentlemen, basically, the ancient Eastern philosophy in general, and Buddhist philosophy in particular, it seems that people only interpret according to the principle of absolute unity and ignore the principle of relativity. Through the two cases that we mentioned above, both the questioner and the respondent are in the principle of absolute unity, which leads to an awkward and unconvincing answer due to the lack of specific grounds on the subject. Science. Because reincarnation back to human is done in both the form of absolute uniformity and relatively different. The Buddha taught that people have gone through countless lives in samsara, that is, the wheel of samsara operates without stopping, so every soul when leaving the body according to the law of agreement, is subject to the attraction of the cycle. Earth's rotation in the lower atmosphere, most of them have negative electromagnetic systems, that is reincarnation according to the principle of absolute unity. Some souls have high yang, or high yang, due to their cultivation efforts, or those who are fortunate because of the cooperation of other positively charged electromagnetic currents existing in space. Or those who die unexpectedly, not according to the law of agreement, have the ability and conditions to perform reincarnation according to the principle of difference. Want to study and learn about human reincarnation really? And if so, how is reincarnation done? Those are two extremely important cases that everyone is trying to find out, including religious people or non-believers. Ladies and gentlemen, the key to opening the door to the house of the truth of reincarnation is the realization of the profound meaning that the Buddha taught. This means that we must master the laws of operation and transformation of heaven and earth regarding visible and metaphysical objects and invisible phenomena in the universe. Especially when we learn and study about the law of reincarnation, we are studying the operation and constant change of electromagnetic phenomena, which are circulating in the high and low formations in space. Time. The same purification and coordination of electromagnetic flows have the same formation but different properties. If we have not learned deeply about the transformation and operation of these invisible phenomena, we cannot understand the truth of samsara. The next important thing is to understand the principle of absolute unity and difference, two moves that are not contradictory, not antagonistic, in order to justify the law of reincarnation. Because the law of reincarnation is always implemented in both the same and different directions. Today, thanks to advanced science, it has been decoded that the human soul is in the form of electromagnetic currents. Thus, if based on the Buddhist scriptures, people can be reincarnated immediately after death, or at the latest 49 days, if they are not reincarnated after that time, they will be damned to hell. This is a faltering interpretation. Without a clear separation between the relative and the absolute, so it is difficult to find the truth of samsara. But it is a pity that for some reason, Buddhism has not been able to combine the two principles of absolute unity and difference, so they have not found a common core. Perhaps that is the difference between Hinayana and Hinayana. The present Mahayana, according to our understanding through short-term meditation sessions, in the form of a zombie without a soul. Because my soul has escaped and has been increased by another residual electromagnetic current in space, in order to be able to afford it, went into the low to high formations of the unseen world, and witnessed the circulation of electromagnetic currents rotating in the same direction as the Earth, and the details that happened, that I felt. Please feel free to share the following. Ladies and gentlemen, we live because of the air, in which there are two layers of the atmosphere that are closely related to our life and death, namely the troposphere and the stratosphere. Each floor has 3 steps. For example, the first step of the troposphere is 1 kilometer to 2 kilometers closer to the ground. Good air, bad air, all kinds of things, dense dust, and countless germs, and so on. So we can call this convective conflict infrastructure. In particular, there is a combination, circulation, of negative electric currents. They often circulate in the same direction as the Earth's rotation. This electric current has a very strong magic power. It will pull all the electronuclear system of the vast majority of people after death has a negative charge, or those who die according to predetermined laws: birth, aging, sickness and death. Because this person's electromagnetic aura is weak, unable to resist these negative currents, which are a combination of currents with the same cascade, but different forms, should always be purged of the calculation form, in order to coordinate the electrification operation. In case the gas currents have too much negative charge, it will return to circulation with the Earth electrons. The vast majority of people die in these two forms. The movement and circulation of the soul is always purified from time to time, so that the qualified souls will be separated and moved to higher levels. And vice versa, it is possible to enter the Earth air cycle. The above-mentioned coordination and transformation must go through a long time. That transformation may change its shape, but the original structural entity does not change. As well as the electromagnetic part of the dead people has changed. Integrates into the operation of those negatively charged electric currents that have been transformed into new states. But it is still an electrified component in space, which people need for life. Therefore, when the two beings, male and female, perform the task of creating, to create a new being, they still have to breathe air to ensure life for themselves, as well as the newly created fetus. And so on. This man and woman continue to carry out the task of procreation according to their own and sufficient conditions, without needing to take the soul of this animal, or another animal, or coordinate the spirit. Spirits come from this planet, or that planet, as explained by the Venerable Master of a temple in District 10 of Ho Chi Minh City. In summary, samsara according to the principle of absolute relativity is extremely sublime, but also very scientific, which the Buddha taught sentient beings a long time ago. But sadly the vast majority of sentient beings do not fully understand the truth. Operate the transformation of the invisible phenomena of the Creator. Even the great scientist Albert Einstein made a mistake, so he argued with Niels Bohr about the electron. Now let's talk more about the types of people who are eligible after death to have a positive human electric system, that is, true cultivators of religions, sages, scientists with a heavy humanity and humanity, morals, national heroes, prophets, psychics, prodigies, healers, and so on. Next is the sharing of the Buddha's method of reincarnation. We rely on the following 4 bases to share about Shakyamuni Buddha's method of transmigrating into the physical body of Prince Siddhartha. Based on modern science in the 21st century, it has discovered and decoded the human soul in the form of electric waves. In electric waves, there are a negative charge, a neutral charge, and a positive charge. Based on Buddhist teachings, Buddha Shakyamuni he said, he has also reincarnated through many lives, and sentient beings are immersed in samsara for countless lives. Based on the doctrinal documents of the Supreme Vehicle Buddhism provided by Zen masters. Based on the philosophy of absolute unity and non-contradictory two-way difference, it is a philosophical system suitable for the new civilization of the times. Through the content presented above, I think we have drawn the most concise and clear proof of the method of performing reincarnation. We keep imagining the moment when King Tin San came to Queen Ma Da to perform intercourse, to combine sperm, to create the physical body of Prince Siddhartha according to the genome. During that moment of intercourse, in the far sky, a stream of positive electromagnetic electricity flew down to the lowest atmosphere, and arrived at the spatial extent, right at the time of King Tin San and Hoang. Post Ma Da, having intercourse to create a new being. The electromagnetic current immediately penetrated the respiratory tract of the Empress, and then merged into the structure of the physical body of the fetus from the beginning, through the entire time during pregnancy, until the time of birth, growth and development. As an adult, in all activities of Prince Siddhartha's life, he was always dominated by this rising electric current, until one day that electromagnetic flow completely assimilated the prince himself. That electromagnetic stream, which is the soul of Shakyamuni Buddha, he performed rebirth, according to the principle of relativity differential. This is also the rebirth of the positively charged souls after death. This form of reincarnation often has clear manifestations of spirituality. In contrast, the souls at death, which are negatively charged, and often follow the principle of absolute unity, often lose their spiritual effect on life symbols, because their residual electromagnetic part has been destroyed. Deformation over time. It is crucial to note that both cases of absolute homogeneity, and relatively differentiation, are performed through the respiratory tract of a woman. Now we would like to share about causality. Cause and effect are two tangible objects, so it is relatively easy to explain and prove. Perhaps that's why the law of cause and effect is often promoted, while the law of reincarnation is downgraded to the theory of reincarnation. The law of cause and effect is considered by some teachers as the basic argument for integrating into the facts of the visible domain, including the phenomena of the invisible domain. Example: it is often said that if you sow a good cause, you will reap a good result. Sow bad seed, reap bad fruit. Or people do good deeds, they enjoy good blessings. On the contrary, if you do bad things, you will encounter bad luck and bad things. However, in real life, this is not the case, so there are many Buddhists in their daily life who have asked the following question. Teacher, my wife and I live peacefully, spontaneously, without harming anyone, why not meet many bad luck, calamity? Then the master answered, because the previous life did not help people in difficulties and tribulations, so this life must pay. Another Buddhist asked, Mr. B, living next to our house, They do not very honest jobs, such as loan sharks, trading, speculation, hoarding, waiting for opportunities to exploit the poor, eat food. Talk about bragging. Mouth 5, mouth 10, yet rich, cars, houses. What's wrong? The teacher also replied, the first is that in the past life they lived well. When they saw someone poor, they helped them, they did many good deeds. So they had merit and blessings, they will enjoy it in this life. As for the things they do wrong today, they will definitely have to pay for it in the next life. Ask how. The teacher's answer is also very good. As long as it comes to the previous life, the next life is silent, no one has any opinions. But the sad thing is, it seems that all of them don't know how they will reincarnate when they die. Now let me share about sowing good causes and reaping bad results. For example, a farmer before transplanting rice. He or she has chosen good seeds. The rice must be firm, full, dry in the right sun, incubate the dew, then store it, maintain it properly, until it's time to sow the good seed. Will give good seedlings. Transplanted seedlings in the field are carefully cared for by pests and diseases, fertilize at the right dose, on time, and keep water in accordance with regulations. The seedling grows into a green rice plant, fully capable of flowering and pistil, so that the rice is good. But unfortunately, when the pistil blooms, the weather is too cold and unsuitable for development, or it is encountered during a lunar eclipse or solar eclipse, right at noon, or at night, which is when the rice flower has pistil to receive nourishment. When the air outside of space meets the bad air, it cooperates with fertilization to transform into a sprout. The rice grain will become flat, blackened, due to lack of oxygen. In the same time and environment mentioned above, if a mother hen is incubating eggs, chicken eggs are in the process of transforming into children, chicken eggs will be rotten by the lack of good oxygen outside. It is the principle of relativity and difference in the explanation of good cause and bad effect, which most teachers often overlook while imparting teachings. For humans, too, when the two bodies of man and woman perform the task of copulating to create a new being, the rebirth of the soul is done in the form of an increased electromagnetic current to supplement the genetic system through the respiratory tract of the woman, merging into the innate new being. Then, throughout the process of development, formation, and degeneration, it is partially influenced by that additional increased aura into the genetic system. If the male and female selves, when performing the task of creating to create a new being, absorb the good vitality in the space environment to harmonize with the genes of the other parents right from the moment of creating the new being, later, when growing up, it will be well influenced by that vital part. On the contrary, if when creating to create the new being of the other man and woman encountering bad aura will affect this child's life from birth, growing up and can last for a lifetime. This is the case of the differential relativity principle about people in our section on causality. Let me also cite a few more examples of the principle of absolute relativity, the sameness and the difference, in relation to people. Just like everyone has birth, there must be death. That is the principle of absolute unity. There are many different ways to die. People die at a young age, people die in old age, people die from illness, disease. People die in car accidents. People die in war, and so on. That is the principle of relativity. Another example is that all people before dying breathe out into space a breath of life, that is the principle of absolute unity. And that exhalation of vital energy is strong or weak, more or less, is up to each individual, and so on. That is the principle of relativity, dear ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. It was a shock to religious authorities and spiritualists, as great scientists such as Albert Einstein, Niels Bohr, Werner Heisenberg, and Alain Aspect discovered. Human soul detection is an electric waveform that always radiates into space. Then at the beginning of the 21st century, Drive. Jerry Shi successfully experimented on how people can write words with their thoughts. That has clearly defined the nuclear system that always emits waves on the brain, which some scientists call a brain flash. The discovery and decoding of the human soul as mentioned above will hopefully help religions soon perfect their doctrines. In particular, Buddhism has helped to prove the truth about reincarnation, and help the public regain faith, to restore a harmonious life between spirit and matter. Ladies and gentlemen, through our sharing above, there is only one highest wish, that everyone soon understand the truth of samsara that Buddha taught sentient beings over the past 25 centuries. At the same time, honor Shakyamuni as a great teacher, a transcendent teacher full of compassion. Finally, I wish you, your uncles and relatives, Vansu Kat Tuong. Best regards. Fula and Fuang Go. New York, September 18, 2022.